Okay, so this video is actually there are no new techniques per se in this video, but we're using some familiar techniques in a new way. So here I'm looking at a Botticelli gallery and I have these thumbnails. It says click thumbnail to enlarge. So each of these I can click and it will blow up a second form. So I only have two forms in this application. This is form one, the gallery form, the thumbnail form, and then form two is like the blow up form with the picture. So the question is, how do I get this picture or whichever picture the user clicked on from form one into form two? Well, you'll see. Okay, so I'm in form one. And each of the picture boxes, so I have four picture boxes. Picture box 1, picture box 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so there are four separate picture boxes. And when one of these is clicked, any one of these is clicked, I want to isolate the image, okay? And I'm just isolating that in I. And then I am passing it to form 2's constructor, which I have overloaded. So let's take a look at form 2 here. Okay. Now forms are just classes. They have constructors. All right. And this is the default constructor that you get automatically. We don't touch this. We don't tamper with it. This is auto-generated by the Visual Studio, but it's a constructor. And what I've done here is I've copied it and I pasted it in. And then I overloaded it. I overloaded it to accept an image, which I'm calling I. Okay, a constructor is like a doorway into the object. This constructor is going to run when automatically execute when the form 2 is loaded into memory, when it's created in memory. And this, specifically the parameter list of that constructor, is the perfect way to slip in an image. And that's what I'm doing here. So up here at the top, I have an image variable, which I'm calling art. This is like the private data for this form class, all right? And now I'm slipping in the image coming from form 1, and I'm going to initialize the private data with that image, whatever in I, whichever of the four images comes through. Okay, and then from there, I'm home free in the form load. I'm going to set the picture box. There's just one picture box, a large picture box on this form, and I'm going to set that to whatever came through and is in the art variable at this point. One thing about this, when you're copying the constructor to overload it, make sure you keep this. This should always be the last thing in a form's constructor, whether it was the auto one or whether it's one that you're creating yourself. You need that initialize component. So always just make sure that's at the end if you're going to do this technique. Okay, so back to the form. So, you know, we had talked about launching a form 2 from form 1. So I'm creating a brand new instance of form 2. I'm going to call it F2. It's a new form 2, and this one is the image of whatever picture box I'm clicking. I'm going to pass that to form 2's constructor, which I've overloaded, and I show the form, and there it is, the image is blown up on the form. So again, nothing new here. You know what overloaded constructors are. You know how to launch a second form from a first form. But this is, again, a novel way of using these techniques to accomplish what we want, which is getting data from one form into another form. And that's just one way of doing it. There is another technique. This is a technique like sharing data between forms. That's something that we really dig into a lot more in C# too. And so we'll look at other ways. But this is a way that you could start using now because you do know how to overload constructors. So again, remember that the constructor is a doorway into a form.